This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
I've got a business card in front of me that says Mind's Eye, and I nearly said, welcome to Mind's Eye. My mind's off somewhere today. Anyway, the guest that I have today is Mark Pearson, and his business is Mind's Eye. Mark is a psychic. I actually met him at the psychic fair in Orangeville a few weeks back. So, Mark, welcome to Third Eye View.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I am looking forward to this because there's so many things here that you do. Now, I do, oh, God, yeah, drumming. I want to get into that too. Let's talk about everything that you do. Now, fusion energy healing. What is that?
I mean, we all have our own way of doing things, and certain things make sense to us that may not make sense or work for someone else. So it really is what it is. It's a fusion of Buddhist techniques, Hindu techniques, Aboriginal techniques, Reiki, different things that I've learned along the way. I've just kind of taken the little bits and pieces that work for me. And then we always have to add our own instincts because we all have these gifts and abilities. It's about letting them come to the surface and using them. So I created something that works for me, created by me. There is no right or wrong way to do it, really.
Exactly. You know, we have a dog. It's so good to hear you say that there's no right way and wrong way, because you get some people that are so hung up on this is how it should be.
Yes.
And well, you can't do that. And it's like, oh, yes, I can because I've been doing it for years, you know, but they get so hung up on technique and what's in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't follow it verbatim because you're not the person that created it in the first place. It wasn't created for you by you.
Exactly. Well, I remember years ago when I was first learning how to do healing, and it was spirit that actually came through. I was teaching a class, and I was teaching them deep trance channeling. And the one girl that I had her down into a deep trance, all of a sudden she got a really bad pain on her shoulder. And a guide, whether it was hers or mine, came through, told me what to do, and pain went away. And that literally is how I learned. Yeah. And I spoke to Kitty Osborne down in the States at, oh dear, I can't think of it. The Psychic Center.
Okay.
Down there. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, she was there, and I talked to her about learning a couple of different other healing modalities, and she said, absolutely not. She said, you go with what you're doing because it's natural to you.
Absolutely.
So that basically goes along with what you're saying there. So it's really... Yeah.
It is. I mean, we all come in with the same gifts and abilities. That whole we're all created equal is so true. There's nothing I can do that anybody else on the planet also can't do. Exactly. I may have more confidence in myself. I started early, a spirit or the universe pushed me in that direction, but that doesn't mean anybody else isn't capable.
Exactly. Now, what got you started on this path?
It started when I was really young. I mean, I was a child. I was the kid sitting in his room going, I must be an alien from another planet because I see things in such a different way than everybody else does. This can't be my home, and these can't be my people. So I always knew there was more out there. Some of the things I saw in movies, the Arthurian thing with Merlin, witches, and I knew there was something to all that, being able to connect with the universe and focus energy. I just didn't know how to do it. So it's kind of been a lifelong learning what I can and applying it to me as an individual piece of the universe, experiencing itself in its own unique way.
Yeah. Now, Akashic records, I want to go to this.
Okay.
Oh, and I do want to mention too about the life coaching.
Okay.
Because this is something that I think is really, really important when you're doing reading to have that ability, that training as a life coach that you can combine with readings, because it's easy to say to somebody, oh, this is what you're going to do. But sometimes they need that little bit of guidance on, but what do I do to get there?
Exactly.
And
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Readings, I find that readers tend to be the last line of defense for a lot of people. They've done the meds, they've done the psychologist, where do I turn now?
yes,
If you don't, what I do and what most of us do is add spirituality, psychology, and philosophy and put the three of those together to see every angle of what's going on with that person. Because the human condition, not only the spiritual, is part of what's going on. You need to understand both. And it's sharing that with the client so they can understand too.
exactly. And it's funny, that you say the last line of defense type of thing, because I've had so many clients say to me, gee, you helped me better than my psychiatrist has.
We've all heard that one. It's true. Or you've said
Yeah.
the same thing my psychologist is saying to me. Yeah, it's very true.
Okay. Thanks God, there's just so many things here that you do. And I'm just going down the list on your card. Now, drumming circle and guided meditation. Drumming is a great form of meditation.
Absolutely, it is.
How did you get into drumming?
I mean, I've always been in a musical family and I've always enjoyed playing instruments, but I found that the drum really touched my soul. It drew me into times past when the drumming was our language and we spoke with the drum.
Yeah.
I find myself getting lost in it and I'm not even drumming anymore. I've been taken over by spirit and spirit's drumming.
I had a drum, and one of my grandsons, he got into it and he was just having a great time with it. So I gave it to him. I gave it to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has a drum set now, like I want to say a drum set that you would use if you were
Drum kit,
band, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But he still uses the drum that he got from me. And you can see when he's playing it that he gets lost in it.
You do. You find flow state. It's the same as an artist or someone being creative. When you find that flow state, you're now connected with the universe and you're in touch with your true higher self. Nothing else around you matters anymore. You're so focused. You are part of what you're doing and nothing else. You hear it, but it's ambient noise, right?
Absolutely, it is. And I'm laughing because as an artist myself, when I'm doing my art, my husband just is like, oh, he doesn't even tell me. He just goes and he makes dinner and he says, come on, dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Because he knows there's no sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm gone. I'm lost.
Yeah. When you're in flow state, I find it really shows Einstein's theory of relativity, how time is so relative and it's not real. Because you're doing it for hours on end and you're enjoying it, but it really felt like you were doing it for 10 minutes.
Oh, it does. It really
The time flies, so to speak, right?
Yeah, it really does. And it's like, what do you mean it's 6 o'clock already? No, it would only be 2 o'clock.
Exactly.
So now you were saying about your family is musical and you were into different forms of music and instruments. Now, although I understand that you were saying how you were really drawn to the drum, but are there other instruments that you play as well?
I do. I play the guitar. I find that playing music or the guitar is very similar to how the universe works, or it's the universe portraying itself. It's all math. It's mathematical equations, and everything needs to jive to make a chord. The right notes need to be played together. Well, life is like that. If you're putting out the wrong vibrational frequency, you're getting that back at yourself. So I find it's just an indication of how the universe works.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I guess to make it simple, like the law of attraction, what you put out
Absolutely.
is what you
Absolutely.
get back.
Yeah, because emotions have a vibrational frequency to them. If you're always in stress or depression or anger, frustration, very low vibrational, dense frequency waves coming off of you. Well, the law of attraction, it's going to hit the universe and bounce back at you in the same frequency. So now all the people and situations coming at you are in that same vibrational state. So they're bringing you more depression, more anxiety, more stress. If you can change your own personal frequency to something higher, passion, compassion, empathy, understanding, and finding your zen, so to speak. You're putting out a high frequency. Well, now all the people and situations like attracts like. It's bouncing back at you at the same frequency. You're creating your own scenario by what you're putting out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The way it was explained to me way, way, way back, many years ago, when I first started taking classes in this field. And this is before anyone talked about the law of attraction, before it actually had a name.
Mm-hmm.
And, what our teacher said to us is negative begets negative and positive begets positive.
Absolutely.
And if you walk into a room and everybody is really miserable and unhappy, within 10 minutes, you're in that same state of mind.
Absolutely.
And then you go next door where everyone's laughing and happy. And again, within 10 minutes, you're up there with them.
Absolutely. I also find that if you go into a room like that and you're holding a very high vibration yourself and you're sitting in that fourth, fifth dimensional conscious level, the other thing happens too. You affect the energy of the room if you're pushing your energy out far enough. Now everybody's happy instead of sad. So it can go both ways.
It's right. You can do, because I know I've seen that myself. And if I walk into a room and everyone's miserable, I'll either walk out or I'll just sit there and say, fine, I'm going to defy you and I'm still going to stay happy.
Yeah. And I'm going to push my energy out and affect this room.
Yeah. And and the ones that are closest, there are those that don't.
Sure.
That choose not
Absolutely.
to. A lot of them do.
Yeah. Everything is a choice.
Absolutely. Life is a choice. Everything we do.
Absolutely.
And with readings, and this, why I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because this is something that I want to talk about is readings. Because a lot of times, people go for a reading and they think, yep, that's it. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I don't have to do anything because that psychic said it's going to happen. Yeah. Well, you still have to take action, right?
Of course you do. Of course you do.
You really do. Years ago, when I first started doing this, I had a young student come to see me for a reading. He went to Brock University. And he asked me if he was going to pass, if he was going to do well on his exams. Well, yeah, he should have. And I said, absolutely. Well, he called me back and he said, you were wrong. I failed. And I said, well, didn't you study? You should have. Well, no, I didn't, because you said I was going to pass.
Oh, yeah. See?
And sorry, go.
I often get people saying, what is my future? What is my future? Your future is what you make it, really. When I look at people and they ask me that, it looks like a tree behind them to me with multiple branches on it. Yeah. And those branches are all decisions that they make along the way, or corners they turn, or conversations they have, pushing them on to another branch. There is no one set fate path. We make decisions all the time, and it takes us on a different branch of that tree. How can I tell you which one of them you're going to take? Because you haven't made those decisions yet.
Yeah, exactly. And, one of the things I tell people is that a good reading, it's possibilities and probabilities.
Absolutely.
Because you have that power of choice and decision. So I can say to you, oh, I see you going this route. And you may sit there and think, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So then you make the choice to go in a different direction. Or you may say, yeah, I really like that. And then you make the choice to make that happen.
Absolutely.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. We are a product of our choices that we make. Is there a bad choice? I don't believe there is. A choice is a choice. So. If it takes you in a direction that you aren't comfortable with or don't like or don't think is your direction, you've learned something from that anyway. So then change your tack.
Yes.
But
And
take the learning from that experience. Don't see it as a bad thing. It's always a good thing because you're going to learn every time. Einstein, the same thing. He said the same thing. When I was stuck on a formula, I would go walk with my dogs on my property. I would clear my mind. I would be one with the universe and with nature. No thoughts, just being. And then all of a sudden it would come to me because you hit a scientific myopia where you get stuck and you can't find the answer. The only way to do that is to clear the mind.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, instead of looking at it as, oh, poor me, and I did this wrong and I did
Yeah.
that wrong, and it just messed up
Yeah.
everything. And so take a look at it and say, okay, where was the lesson?
Exactly.
What is the lesson here that I was meant to learn?
Absolutely. There's a lesson in everything. Just find the lesson, learn it, and then let it go at that
Yeah.
point. Buddhist monks, I lived with Buddhist monks for a year in a monastery. They
Oh,
have a very funny or unique way of looking at things. And one of the things they taught me was whenever you point your finger out like this, look what you did to me, look what you caused, look where you put me, always remember there's three other fingers pointing back at you. Why did I do that to myself? Where is that coming from in myself? Because if I can find the core of that, where the trigger is, I can now fix that and that will never happen to me again. The situation or the people has nothing to do with it. That will come and go. You can't change that. How you perceive that situation is where your power lies and how you deal with it. It always lies on you. It's never about the other person. We're too quick to point the finger outward when it should be pointing back in on the self.
yeah. Now, a year with the Buddhist monks, that must have been really fascinating.
It was very interesting. Again, they're as human as anyone else is. I've seen them be angry. I've seen them be depressed. I've seen them be sad, but they don't sit in it forever. They experience the emotion, they let it come to the surface, they feel it, and then their next question is, where did that come from and why did I do that to myself? And how can I change that?
All right, now this may sound a really silly question, but what country were you in? Like, where was this?
It was actually here in Canada.
That's what
Uh,
I wondered.
It was. I mean, I was going in to talk to the Dharma quite often, just to have spiritual conversations and share information and learn. I knew I needed to immerse myself in it to truly understand it from their perspective. I needed to take myself away from the three-dimensional reality that we live in and put myself in a different space, a different conscious space. So I just randomly mentioned it to him and he said, well, we have a spare room. Why don't you stay as long as you wish? We'll learn as much from you as you will from us. Let it be the experience you need it to be. And when you're ready to go, you'll know the time, and then it'll be time to go.
Oh, wow, that really is something. I mean, that obviously is something that not very many people have the opportunity to
No,
do.
I think a lot of those, I've had a lot of opportunities like that in my life. And I think it's only because I let the current of life flow and I don't force it. I follow it. So it takes me on the path of least resistance. I knew what I wanted and I let the universe push me there. And then when the opportunity came up, I wasn't in fear. I just thought, well, here's my opportunity. The universe made it present to me. If you ask, you will receive.
Yeah. Now, was it Esther Hicks? That was one of the analogies that she used. I think it was her, but but she talked about a salmon going upriver.
Yeah.
And if you go against the flow, I mean, basically said what you said, but instead that just go with the
Yeah.
flow.
It, it's hard for humans to do because it's a total submission to something you can't see, touch, taste, or feel. But once you can totally submit and fall into faith, um, it automatically takes you where you need to be with the path of least resistance because you've now given into it. You're not fighting it anymore.
Yeah.
It really is. And whitewater rafting is absolutely like that. Before you get to the rapids, you're paddling there. As soon as you reach the rapids, the guides tell you, put the oars in the boat, hang onto the rope, and enjoy the ride. Because
Yeah.
the water will naturally flow around the rocks and obstacles. Well, if you give in to life in that same way, it does the same thing.
Yeah. Now, have you been whitewater rafting?
I
curious.
have. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was much younger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I've watched and I've thought, oh, that would be really neat, but it's not, I never had the courage to do it.
Well, I have a fear of drowning. It was hard for me to
Oh, it
do
would
that.
be.
And it's an Atlantis thing from a past life that I carried with me into this life. But the only way to fear is there to be conquered. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's supposed to push you out of your comfort zone so that you can grow.
yes.
So I faced my fear. I mean, fear is a constant. It's how you deal with that fear that makes you great.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that fear came from a past life.
It absolutely did.
I, yeah, I also have a fear of drowning, and I know it came from a past life.
Mhm.
Uh, I was shown, I think, oh, geez, I haven't seen the vision on this for many, many years, but I think it was 1800 sometimes. I was on a wharf on a dock, and it
Okay.
was at night, and someone pushed me into the water, and I
Yeah.
drowned.
Yeah.
And that was that fear. Now, you talked about Atlantis.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I did.
yes, you did. Boy, that's another great thing to talk about. So, do you have any, have you had, well, you do past life regressions, which
I do.
we will talk about later in the show. Have you sort of done any of your own regressions into it? Well, I don't know if you can, I'm fumbling on this one because I'm not sure how to
It's
word it.
um I don't purposely look into the past that way for myself.
Mhm.
Um Sometimes through dreams or different vision quests, I will have visions that come up. I find they come up when they need to, and
Yeah.
I see little blips and bits and I get it. I mean, I can dive into it. I kind of like the idea of just letting it happen and not knowing.
Yeah.
I like the enjoyment of the mystery, right? If I really feel I need to dig into it, I will, but I try to just let it go the way it needs to go. But I have had blips and images come through when they've needed to.
Yeah. Now, have you had many glimpses of Atlantis?
I've had a few of Atlantis. They usually coincide with other images. A lot of times it'll be ancient Egypt as well. I was definitely a teacher of the
Okay.
mysteries in ancient Egypt, and I actually came across another reader at a show, and we both knew we had connected before, and we did a thing together where we meditated together, and we saw each other, and I saw her as my student, and she was being initiated into the mysteries in ancient Egypt.
Oh, wow. I want
Yeah.
to show you this. This piece of rock, this came from the Bimini Road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A friend of mine was deep sea diving and he saw this and it was loose. So he grabbed it and he brought it back for me because he knew that
Yeah.
somebody would think, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, part of the Bimini Road.
Yeah.
Um, Now, how long did you do psychic fairs?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
It's what I do all the time now, for the
Yeah.
most part, because I'm touring quite often.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing psychic fairs for?
Um, I've been doing psychic fairs off and on for quite some time, probably 20 years, but they were little bits and blips. But I've been with Galaxy Psychic Fair probably the last 6 years or so now,
Okay.
7 years. I find that the group is really good and I jive
Yeah.
well with them and I enjoy the energy of the other readers, so it makes it easier for me.
Yeah. And
And I
that's
find it affects the energy of the room. So a bunch of good readers are going to affect the people coming in one way or the other.
absolutely. Now, who are some of the other promoters that you've worked with?
Um, Janet Farr, there was a few different people along the way, little kind of pop-up shows here and there, different
Uh-huh.
readers that I've known. But more so doing it in on my own speed. I did a lot of work at a crystal shops and metaphysical shops too.
Oh,
Yeah.
now where are you located? Like if somebody wanted to come and see you for a reading,
Okay.
um,
I'm in Bowmanville is my home base. I do have a healing center studio where the guided meditations and drumming circles happen. That's in Ajax.
uh-huh.
any contacting me through my email, I could give them the information. I haven't been doing a whole lot at the studio because I've been touring so much. I
Yeah.
haven't really been home.
Okay. Now, what psychic fairs do you have coming up?
We've got Sarnia coming up, Hamilton. I've got three left. I'm not sure what the other one is. I'd have to check my schedule, but we've got three left. Then we're off on a break for Christmas
Uh-huh.
until January. And then we go January into maybe late February. We have a small break. Then we do a summer tour. We cross the country. We leave in March. We're not home until July. And there's about
Oh,
20 of us that kind of follow the group. So we're doing a different show every weekend in a different city, constantly moving west until we hit Kelowna in BC.
yeah.
So we're
Now,
gone for 4 months.
oh, wow. Now, is this with Galaxy?
It's with Galaxy, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've
They've
got
been doing
Mira
it for a
coming
long
on.
time.
Yeah, I've got Mira coming on as a guest.
Oh, there you go. So Mira will tell you all about Galaxy for
So,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
His wife is a reader and has been doing it for a long time. And that was just a natural progression for them was to start their own show. And they've been doing it ever since.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, when I did the shows, the fairs, I used to do most of the shows with First Star Enterprises
Okay.
with Stan Mallow and Ray Bosher.
Okay.
And
There's been a few groups like that through time. There used to be a big Toronto show too every year at the
yes,
International Center.
Don Nosbaum. He was a big
Right.
one. And
That was a big show.
it was. And the first psychic fair that I ever did was actually was in Toronto with Don Nosbaum.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was many, many years ago. But it's like I say, there's a lot of shows and a lot of
Absolutely.
promoters, and some promoters are a lot better than others. And I mean, it's like
Sure.
any business. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I find it's a really good way the way I see it is whoever comes to me specifically for a reading is being sent to me by the universe for a reason. Whether our energies jive, the connection's going to be stronger, they can understand the way I explain things maybe better than someone else. So touring the country kind of puts me as a conduit of the universe out there available to whoever may possibly need me specific. Not that the other readers aren't great, they are, but
they
it's
are.
all about connection.
It is. It is. Because I know, and I mean, this is something that I want to talk about with Mira, because so many people, and I've had people come to me and say, well, I'm going to a psychic fair. How do I know who I should go to? How do I know what psychic I should
Yeah.
pick?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Common question.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
know, it's all about feel.
Yeah.
It's all about connection. And
Absolutely.
sometimes you may feel drawn to somebody, but they're busy. So you end up going to the one next door.
Yeah.
And that literally is what happened with me because I was drawn to you, but then
Mhm.
you were busy. And Tammy, who is going to be on the show in a few weeks,
Okay.
because she's sick today,
She is. Yeah.
and I was drawn to her. Like it was
Yeah.
really between the two of you, and she wasn't busy and
Mhm.
fantastic reader,
Yeah.
you know.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah,
And
it is really. I tell everybody that when they come to me and ask that question, well, I've never done this. How do I do it? Take the cards that you can and read their information. Talk to them if you can, if they're not doing a reading.
yes,
See everybody you can, and then sit yourself quietly somewhere and try and read through their cards again and feel who you had the best connection with. That will absolutely be your best reading.
oh,
Makes it
absolutely,
easier for us as a reader if there's an established solid connection anyway. Then I'm
yeah,
not trying to fight through walls and different things to get through.
yeah. Oh, I hate when people do that. Um, they've come to see me and they've taken their wedding rings off. And
Yeah.
it's confusing because you're getting the energy of being that there's that connection with someone that they're married, but there's no ring. And so the logic sets in.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's confusing. And I've even had some where they put someone else's wedding band on.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, well, wait a minute. You've got a ring on, but you don't feel like you're married.
Yeah, it does. It makes it confusing.
It really does. And
Yeah.
testing us is not the way to get a good
I,
reading.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm a skeptic and I'm here to prove you wrong. Well, then maybe you should pick another reader because I'm not playing that game.
exactly. I had somebody, I was doing a party one time, and this woman came for a reading, and she sat, her arms were crossed, her legs were crossed, and she did everything to block me. And I said, all right,
Yeah.
if you don't want a reading, there's the door. If
Yeah.
you do want a reading, let down your walls, uncross your arms and your legs, let down your walls, and I'll do a reading for you. If not, there's the
Absolutely.
door. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah,
You know?
well, yeah, I'll tell you, she changed her tune.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times when it's like that, I'll go anyway and I'll go, okay, let's give this a shot. If I drop the ruins and, there's 24 ruins and I drop them all at once, 3 or 4 come up. I know they've got a wall up and they're trying to block it. I know they're the
Yep,
skeptic. I know. So I'll stop for a second and I'll have a conversation with them
yep,
and I'll get them to calm their energy down a little bit and focus their mind on something else. Now I see the door open. Now I drop them again, and now 10 ruins, 15 ruins come up. It's like, okay, I found a way to get through. And then I go through it. And then at the end, they're usually, more often than not, wow, you kind of hit on a lot of
yeah,
stuff that you would never know unless you knew what you were doing. So there's got to be something
that's
to
right.
this.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Mark, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, one of the big things that I really want to talk about is past life and the Akashic Records.
Absolutely.
All right. Don't go away. We'll be back soon.
We invite you to play What's My Line?
Welcome, Mrs. Baker. Those folks over there need to guess your extraordinary occupation.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you perform?
Yes. Do you travel for work? Yes, I do.
Do you ever wear a special type of costume?
Yes.
Is your job physical?
Yes, indeed.
Are you a member of a team?
Yes.
Are you a professional baseball player?
Yes, I am.
Created during the Second World War, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League included 68 Canadians. One of its brightest stars was my mother, Saskatchewan's Mary Bonnie Baker, a pioneer for women in sports.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to RogersTV.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at RogersTV.com.
Now, in case anyone missed the first half, my guest today is Mark Pearson, and he is absolutely amazing. He really is.
Thank you.
And one of the things that actually, before we continue on, because I want to talk about the Akashic Records, but I also don't want to forget, Mark, if someone wants to get hold of you, what is your contact information?
Because I'm not around so often, my email is really the best way to get a hold of me because I check them every day.
Okay. And what is your email address?
The email is mindzai 369 at gmail.com.
All right. Now, if somebody that lives...
Or through Galaxy Psychic Fair on their website, because I do a lot of work with them.
Okay. Now, also, if somebody wants to get hold of you to have a reading done, but they live a distance away, do you also do Zoom, Messenger?
I do Zoom as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Healings, I don't mind doing them via Zoom. I do healings with people in the States from thousands of miles away, but I prefer doing healings in person, but I will do them. But readings is a different thing.
Now, curious, rooms. Would you do rooms if it's a distance reading? You just put focus their energy and...
Yeah, I mean, I do photograph readings, so I'm very used to looking at photographs of past people or people still alive. I connect with their energy through the photograph. I mean, it's like dialing a phone. As long as I can see what they physically look like,
Yep.
I can tap into where they sit on the web and follow that phone line to them. So I drop them here, but I'm looking at them and I'm connecting with their energy.
Yeah. Yeah. With me, if I work with pictures, I have to see their eyes.
Eyes are the window to the soul. Absolutely.
They are. Years again, everything with me is years ago when I was learning stuff. And my teacher, Lizanne, she took us somewhere because she had to teach a class in something, and she took David and I along because she was kind of teaching us to teach.
Yeah.
And we were doing psychometry. Well, someone gave me a picture, and it was a woman on a horse. Well, I couldn't see the woman's eyes, but I could see the horse's eyes, and I read the horse, not the woman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've done that one a few times. Okay, Akashic records.
Yes.
What are they?
Well, I mean, it comes from Sanskrit. It's the Akasha. It's if you think of yourself as a piece of the universe experiencing itself, which we are, we all have our own particular file, different lives we've led, things we've learned or not learned, soul contracts we've signed. It's all there and it's all accessible to all of us. I see it as a giant library that we can all access to gain universal knowledge. We all go through different experiences here. It's the universe multitasking. I'm going to experience what I created in 8 billion separate ways all at once.
Oh.
And it's really just tapping into those files and records is the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody wanted to tap in, like, is this something that someone could tap into their own Akashic records, or?
Sure, you could. Absolutely, you could. The way I do it, it's kind of a hypnotherapy technique because I need to move you out of beta wave into theta wave. Theta wave is between the age of 1 and 7. That's our normally functioning brain wave. That's why we're creating neural pathways and we're susceptible, hence generational traumas and patterns. They all come between the ages of 1 and 7 because when we hit 8, our brain automatically switches to beta wave and we start to run the program. But now it's harder to change those neural pathways and change our minds, so to speak. But those are the impressionable years. That's why the Gnostic priests used to say, give me a boy from 1 to 7 and I will show you the man.
Okay. Now you've got my mind going, my brain. Okay, because I do neurographic art.
Okay.
And you like doing it so that you can actually change the neurons in your brain. You can wake them up.
Create new pathways. Yeah, absolutely.
Create new pathway, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to take it, focus on it when you're doing it, if you were to focus on it and take it back to that age between birth and 7, if that could be done.
Absolutely, you could, because time is malleable and time doesn't really exist. And all that information is locked in your subconscious. Every conversation you've ever had your whole life or things you've heard or taken part in are all sitting in your subconscious. Digging in is, again, moving yourself into that theta wave state, which is the meditative state where you're now open and receptive. Yeah. And then just dig, look for it. The way if I was to personally do a reading for myself, Akasha-wise, I see myself in a giant library full of books. And I find the book that says Mark Pearson, and I pull the book, and that's my book. And then I just flip through the pages. But I've also seen times where I wasn't ready to receive that information yet, and that page turned out blank. But 4 months later, I may look into the same thing, and that page now has writing on it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's the right time, the right thing for the right time. If I'm not ready to receive it yet, it's not going to be made available to me.
That's right. The way I look at it, the universe always has a plan.
Always.
And it may not align with what we think our plan should be, but it's also one of the readings. Like, I've had people come for readings and they'll ask a question about something and I can't get an answer for it.
Yeah. They're not ready to receive it yet.
Exactly. And this is what I've said to them, well, you're just not ready to know this yet.
Yeah.
Now you come back in 6 months and you ask me the same question, and chances are I'll be able to answer it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now,
Absolutely.
it's just that learning, and it's not just about learning to trust in the universe either. I think a lot of it is learning to trust in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because again, we are the universe experiencing itself. So if I am source experiencing what it created here, first of all, what do I need to be afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I have a complete connection to everything that ever has and ever will and is happening because it's all happening at the same point in time space. So it's just me accessing that web of knowledge or understanding.
Yeah. Now, past life reading.
Mm-hmm.
I am so fascinated with past lives. I really am. Oh, I have been for years. I before my husband and I moved up here, because we live up by King Garden, and when we first came up this way, we moved to Port Elgin. But we came up for a weekend, and I did a past life regression on him because I was looking to see if I could get past life where him and I were together, right? And have some fun with it. So I got him into the meditative state. He went to a past life, and I asked him to describe himself, and he was a young man. He had dark skin, bare feet. He was walking along a path, and he went along the path, and there was a big rock that he had to go around, which he did. And then he came to a cave, and he went down into the cave. So we figured probably Aboriginal of some sort. Yeah. Well, anyway, about 6-7 months after that, we had moved up to Port at that time, and Russ was sitting downstairs watching a thing on National Geographic, and they showed the path. They showed that rock that he had, and he called me down. He said, "You've got to come and see this." And the rock and the path, and they showed the cave. Well, now you could just walk straight in the cave, but they explained back in the days of the Neanderthal, you had to go down about 20 feet. So we had actually taken him back to the days of Neanderthal. And I know for myself, that is one of the best confirmations on past life that I've had. And it really spooked him. It was like, whoa. Yeah.
It's interesting how past lives can still affect us in future lives. If we don't learn the lesson, or it's so traumatic that we carry it with us, it lingers until we can go back and see it for what it is and then release it somehow.
Yes. Now, one of the things I was taught, and if memory serves me right, so I'll get you to confirm this for me, is things that are fears from this life are clues to different things in past lives.
Yeah.
And where was I going with this? Okay. So if we got hung in a past life, we may have trouble with our neck. So there's things that can be affected.
Absolutely.
In this life. Oh, I know where I was going. And if somebody takes their life voluntarily, they commit suicide. It's like, this is something you're allowed to do once. And then
you get get out of jail free card. Yeah,
exactly. And then when you come back in the next lifetime, you will be faced with the same problems,
absolutely.
Whatever.
Absolutely.
But you won't be allowed to take your life that time. You have to take through it. You have to learn those lessons.
Yeah, they're necessary.
Yeah,
you have to learn them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a very strong feeling of betrayal in this life, and I didn't know where that was coming from. I couldn't figure it out. So I had a dream, I had a vision when I was trying to contemplate it, that I was a Knight Templar And I saw myself with the chainmail cowl on and the blood was pouring down and I'm resting on my sword and I could hear myself in my own mind going, I thought I was here to do good, but all I'm here is to be a butcher and butcher Muslims. And this is not why I came here. So I was betrayed by the church. I was betrayed by my other knights. That was not my intent. So I carried that with me from then until this life, until I saw where it came from and went, well, I get that. I'll just learn from that and never put myself in a place or a position where I can be betrayed like that again. And it's changed my life in that way because I don't get those feelings of betrayal. I don't worry about people cheating on me or doing things like that. I don't feel it anymore because I've seen it.
Good.
And I wasn't sure, am I seeing the right thing? So I went to another gifted medium friend of mine and said, I want you to check into this and see what you see. I'm not telling you nothing. I just want you to go into a past life that's prominent and it has to do with betrayal. And she came up with the exact same image I did of me sitting on the sword with blood coming down, thinking, I've been duped.
Now, if somebody wanted a past life reading done, is this something that you can do on Zoom, or is this something that really has to be done in person?
I prefer doing it in person. It is a hypnotherapy technique that I use. I move time. So what I do is in your mind, I meditate you to a point where I can move you backwards in time and you see yourself getting younger until you're the fetus. And then they take you before you were the fetus. Now we're both in the astral plane together and we're seeing blips and bits and images of different lives coming through. Then I take you back in time to current in the room and I wake you up. So we've both moved through time. And then we come back and we kind of go through because we don't always see the same thing. And then we compare notes and we go through it. And then I just help them make sense of what we saw.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever come up to the Owen Sound area to do shows?
No, but they're adding new shows all the time. You never know.
Yeah. Oh, if they do, you've got to let me know because I want to see you and get a past life reading done.
I will absolutely let you know.
Oh, yeah. Like I say, it's something that I have always been really, really fascinated with.
Yeah.
And like learning history and being able to do this.
Yeah. Because it's true history when you're seeing it. I mean, history is always written by the victor. I see it as an agreed upon lie.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this is what it's perceived to be, but that's always written by the victor. So is it actual truth? It's the same thing as there's three sides to every story. There's the left side, the right side, and the truth sitting in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I know some of the things I've done because as I mentioned earlier, I was taught how to do deep trance channeling. And some of the things that David Lafort, David was my best friend. He has passed away 2013. And him and I, his sister always says that I was the instigator with the two of us. And yeah, I guess I was really. Oh God, it was when I say, hey, David, come on, you want to come for dinner? And he was, okay, because he was a bachelor. And he'd come over and it was, okay, this is what we've learned in class. Now I want to try it. And we tried a past life regression one time, again, because we wanted to get to some spots where we were together in past lives. And we had been taught how to do it with a mirror. So I made a big long mirror and I sat it up on a couple of chairs and we sat in front of it. And you focus on it. Have you ever done it with a mirror?
I've done a lot of scrying in the past, and I have used mirrors for scrying and using it as kind of a portal or doorway to see through to the other side. Yes, I have. Absolutely.
Okay, because there's not a lot of people I know that have done this, and so you focus, you disappear, like your reflection disappears, and then a different version of you comes through on the mirror.
Yeah.
Well, because David wore dark frame glasses, And this one time that we did it, I disappeared. His physical body disappeared, but his glasses were just floating around in the mirror on their own.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, mirrors have been a thing for a long time with spiritual people, sometimes feared, sometimes not, but it's definitely a doorway or an opening. There's a test I give my students sometimes just to kind of show them. I get them to take an 8.5, 11 or a piece of paper or something that's solid like that. Put it up against a large mirror and put your hand on it, holding it there. Now turn your head to the side. Your hand's hidden behind that paper, but when you look to the side, you're going to see your arm and your hand touching the paper, and you're going to see the paper as a one-dimensional piece, but there's 3 dimensions on either side. There's an absolute reflection of your arm on the other side. Well, how does the mirror see your hand when it's behind a piece of paper?
Hey, yeah.
Nobody really tries it, but when you try it, you go, oh man, I can see my whole arm and my hand and the other side of the paper. Well, how can I see that when it's hidden by the paper? How is it showing through the mirror? Is it just refracted light, or is it showing us that there's other dimensional spaces and the mirror is a gateway through that?
Oh, Mark, I'm going to try that when I go upstairs.
There you go.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question in my mind, but then I got so fascinated with you talking about that with the mirror that I forget what I was going to ask you now. Oh, I know what it was. Now, you had mentioned about a student. Do you have any upcoming classes?
I haven't been taking on students in the last little while just because I've been touring and so busy. I can't give them my undivided time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I like to be in person so that they can experience it, and I can show them and I can see that they're doing what they need to be doing and they're feeling what they need to be feeling. It's like me getting them to cast themselves a circle of energy around them as a protective barrier. I need to see them bringing it up, and I can see the energy field coming up, and I need to see them touching it and feeling the resistance by that energy field they've created. Not as easy to do over Zoom or a place like that than you can in person. I need to feel the energy field they put up.
Yeah. And that is a really cool thing, being able to feel that energy.
Because you can. I mean, there's a man named Sifu James, and he's a Qui-Gong Feng Shui master that I know. And he does tour Ontario doing different things. If you pay attention to his name, you might see him. He talks about the aura being in several different levels, and each level activating or doing a certain function. So the healing is 6 inches from the cap, from the crown chakra. If you put your hand 6 inches up and you activate 6 inches, you'll start to feel a breeze on your hand come out of nowhere. And when you ask it to shut it off, that breeze goes away. And to show yourself it's real, you move your hand a couple of inches up and do it again. You don't feel anything. Yeah. We can attach to different levels of our aura.
Yeah. One of the times when David and I were doing the deep trance stuff, and he had me down, and I visualized these, there were 13 little hooded figures. And they showed me how to create the different energies with my hands.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I had ever experienced something like that. Well, I've been able to use it with reading too, and it's...
Absolutely. I mean, I do the same thing with my students to show them. I get them to pull energy out of their heart chakra and see it as a ball of plasma energy in their hands. And I get them to work it, make it bigger, make it stronger, see it getting brighter and bigger and more intense. And then their hands move out with it. And then I ask them to try and push their hands together, and they actually feel a resistance. They can't see it necessarily, but they can feel that resistance of that plasma energy ball that they've now created. And then I get them so you could bring up your own core vibration that way. If you take a piece of yourself out and you raise the vibration of that piece and now push it back in on yourself, you've now raised your core vibration up.
Exactly.
working your own energy.
Oh, yeah. One of the times I was out west doing a psychic fair, it was one we did in Vancouver. And a group of us, we all went out for dinner. And I had my oldest daughter with me. She was 16 at the time, I think, 15 or 16. And they taught her, how to create that energy ball and throwing it around the room.
And tossing it around, yeah.
Tossing it and catching it. And oh boy, she just thought that was amazing. She thought that was something. And that's something that I've worked with clients, they sort of question about energy. And it's like, yeah, but we all have it.
I mean, even science, even if you look at science, quantum physics or physics, I'm touching my two hands together, but the skin is not touching skin. There's a barrier of energy between them that's actually touching each other. My hands are not touching each other. There's the energy of my aura is touching from one hand to the other. There's something between the two. It may feel to us like the hand is touching the hand, but it's really not.
Yes. And it is. It's just, I have a niece she's a scientist, so very logical. And the last time I saw her, she said, because she's working with quantum physics now, and she said, now I understand all the things that you have said about energy. She said, you see it different than I do, but it's the same thing. And I said, absolutely.
But it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. Right? If you watch or listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, he was absolutely and is a quantum physicist, but he's now on a more spiritual way, showing how quantum physics is now proving spirituality in its own way. He was actually also part of a DVD or a documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? It's out there available, and it's just a bunch of quantum physicists talking about how quantum physics is now showing how and why the universe works, and it's more what we perceive to be the spiritual side of it than it is the actual physical side of it. You take an atom, you break it down, you now get a fractal. They know they can go beyond the atom now, and they get a fractal. Beyond the fractal is a quark. It's like the picture of the painter painting a picture of himself, painting a painting, painting a painting, painting a painting, painting a painting. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Now, we're just about at the end of the show. Is there any last thing that you would like to say or give? We have a minute left. Okay. So any contact information again, the next show you're going to be at, anything that you have to impart?
Check the Galaxy Psychic Fair website if you're interested. They have a full schedule of the shows coming up, and when new shows come up, the schedule gets put up. If you go to the show you're interested in, there'll be a list of every reader that's at that show. If you're looking for me, you just look on the shows you want to go to. I should be there unless they're splitting it up. Sometimes now they're doing 2 shows on a weekend, but and my email is the best way to get me. Okay. Mine's i369 at gmail.com.
Yeah. And so obviously you also know Richard Ravenhawk.
It's funny you talked about Richard because, yes, I do know Richard and I met him through Galaxy. But the funny thing is we both hung out in similar communities in our childhood, and we never remembered each other or came across each other, but we did again.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the show has come to an end. I could talk to you.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.
They've reached the summit!
Back-to-back Stanley Cup victories.
Greatness. And a new legacy begins.
Absolutely amazing.
It has has happened in Vegas.
It's not a destination.
And lightning has struck twice.
It is a continuous journey.